Hi, everyone. I'm Ross Benjamin of the Winner's Circle. As always, I'm joined by professional sports handicapper from Las Vegas, Nevada, Mr. Chip Chirimbes. Chip, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm doing wonderful. Things just keep rolling along, Ross.
We're going to get to that in a second. Again, you're listening to us and watching us on our YouTube channel here. And folks, take a second, if you haven't already, to subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. Hit that notification bell and you'll be notified right away upon any of our Winner's Circle podcast going up immediately. So again, we appreciate your support and we hope we'll get your continued support. Now, having said that, last night we just discussed bad beats and lucky wins. We were both very fortunate with Tampa Bay covering for us as a 3.5 point dog on Sunday against me. My mind just slipped. Tampa Bay. Who did they cover against?
Kansas City. Kansas City.
Yeah, boy, oh boy, my memory's going. Anyway, and then Saturday I was beat by a backdoor cover as I had Texas A&M minus 14.5, and I get beat with a late touchdown with 38 seconds to go. And then last night we saw a classic of, if you were on the right side, you were ecstatic with Seattle. If you had, or I'm sorry, with Philadelphia plus the points, and if you were on Seattle, you're ready to put your foot through the television. Chip was on Philadelphia, and it just goes to show you, when things are going well, the ball bounces your way.
Well, you know something? Cam Newton and I have something in common. We don't apologize for winning.
Yes.
And that's it. I mean, you mentioned it. There's enough times when you get hit from behind and get screwed over virtually. You with that LSU A&M game. Fortunately, I had the right side last night, and hopefully it'll continue because it seems like I'm on a really good roll right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you went 4-0 on Sunday, right, in the NFL?
No, I was 4-0 Saturday, 4-1 Sunday.
Okay.
Followed up with this winner here. So I feel pretty good about where I am right now.
Yeah, 9-1 over the last 3 days in football. And, we do have a Wednesday game this week we're going to discuss in a second. But, we talked on numerous occasions, and yeah, this goes hand in hand with sports betting, NFL betting, if you will, to be specific. But Peterson going for 2 in an 8-point game, or 8-point game.
It was an 8-point game.
8-point game with 12 seconds to go made no sense whatsoever.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I'm glad it worked out for you,
If he wants to go for 2, Ross, why does he kick it, score a touchdown, and then go for 2 to win the game? To do it at that point is silly. In other words, if he made the 2, which he did, I was, when I saw it happened, I sort of smiled. I was thinking, what the heck was he thinking? But I'm happy that he made it, and I don't think there was too much resistance put up by the defense either.
Yeah, I mean, think about it rationally. If you kick the extra point, it's a 1-score game. Now, you could say it's a 2-score game at 8 points, but Chipper, you still got to score twice. You got to score the touchdown, and then you run one in or succeed on a play from the 2-yard line. Higher percentage is kicking the extra point, right? So I just don't get it. I've seen this. I was mentioning to you again, I'm going to share this with the listeners. I was at the Baltimore-Buffalo game last year, and Buffalo was trailing in that game by 15 points with around 6 minutes to go. They scored a touchdown to cut it to 9. Instead of kicking the extra point and making it a 1-possession game, Sean McDermott decides he's going to go for 2. Now, he got lucky. He made it. I don't understand it, Chip. I don't understand these analytics.
That doesn't make any sense for us, because if he doesn't make it, he's 2 scores down.
2 scores down with 6 minutes to go. And what does that do to your team mentally, right?
Well, you know who's just as bad? I think this Anthony Lynn with the Chargers is absolutely horrid. He had this is the 5th game this past week where he just totally mismanaged an opportunity to score before a half or at the end of the game. And some people think they're great when they got the team and organizing them and running through practices, but under game conditions, they just don't react all that well. And he hasn't this season at all. It's something that I've been looking at, I mentioned it to you a couple times about how he mismanaged the clock and decision, calling a timeout and then taking a 5-yard penalty and a delay game after a timeout. Things like that just don't make sense.
No, none whatsoever. And again, as a head coach, you're, in my opinion, you have to operate as a CEO of a company. In other words, you're delegating a lot of duties to others. You have to trust them to do their job, and you oversee the whole operation. So in a head coaching analogy to that is you have to be a game manager. You have to be able to call timeouts when needed. You have to make the decisions whether you want to play reviewed. And some guys just aren't good game managers. And if they're not good game managers, that means you're going to cost your team wins. And if you cost your team wins in the NFL, you know what that stands for, Chip? To use an old Jerry Glanville. NFL stands for not for long when you do stuff like that. So anyway, tomorrow night, Chip, let me punch this line up as we speak, because things have changed dramatically, back and forth. In this Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. It was originally scheduled for last Thursday night, and was rescheduled for Sunday. Then it was rescheduled for Monday. Then they moved it to Tuesday, and now it's on to Wednesday. But right now, as we speak, the Pittsburgh Steelers remain a 10-point favorite, and the total on this game is 42. We know that Lamar Jackson's not going to be playing. It looks in all likelihood that they will now, because of the one-day delay, get the services of running backs Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, meaning the Baltimore Ravens. Do you have any kind of early feel here on this game, Chipper? Because, to me, you put this game on a Sunday, there's no way I'm touching it.
Well, Ross, I think both of us, when we saw the matchup coming on Thanksgiving night after the way the Ravens had disappointed and Pittsburgh being undefeated, and the line opened really shallow. It was only 4, I think, 4.5 at the biggest when I first saw it. And my first instinct was, boy, the Ravens going to come to play here, and it's going to be a close, tight game. I don't know if they're going to win. But, then the COVID hits, and they push the games back. The line changes. Your quarterback's not there anymore. Your running backs weren't there. They're going to be available to play tomorrow, but they're not allowed to practice with the team today. And so, how did this team work through this? Some teams, they sit there and they get together and they bond and they mesh together, and others are just in disarray. I mean, Denver was in disarray, of course, and they didn't give them the leniency of extending a couple of days' effort to find out that their quarterbacks are tested negative today. So it's a tough spot if you want the Ravens, and now the line's going up to 10. Ross, like you said, if this was on a Sunday, we probably wouldn't have anything to do with it.
No, I definitely would not have anything to do with it. And there's so much uncertainty. And you make good points, Chip. I mean, how does that affect the Ravens? I mean, they're in a little bit of disarray, meaning their structure has been thrown off. They haven't been able to practice on a couple occasions. They've been working virtually. Their running backs who may be available tomorrow couldn't practice today. How effective are they going to be without practice? Are they going to be more rested, and would that be beneficial to them? When you get that much uncertainty surrounding a game, and then you see the line go from where it originally was up to 10 in a rivalry game such as this, RG3 is the backup quarterback. He's had some success in this league. If you're going to have a backup quarterback that emulates your starter or close to it, he's certainly that in comparison to Lamar Jackson. I don't know, Chip. This, again, there's too much uncertainty for me.
Yeah. And, this Ravens haven't had a full squad practice since I think November 20th or before last weekend. And so who knows what's happening with them. I mean, like you said, I don't know. It's a game. If you're looking to invest good money, I think you're really you get what you deserve if you bet this game.
Yeah, and again, the Ravens since last year are now 11-2 straight up on the road in regular season away games. Yep. Another thing to consider. Anyway, we're going to move beyond that. Let's look at some college football. Friday evening, a conference that's been pretty underrated this year, and they've had some successful wins over Power 5 conference teams, has been the Sun Belt, Chip. And on Friday night, we got a pretty good matchup. Number 20, that's right, number 20, Louisiana Lafayette travels to Appalachian State in a big Sun Belt game. And right now, Appalachian State's been eliminated from the Sun Belt Championship race for the first time in who knows how long. So they're going to act as a spoiler in this instance. But in any event, they're a 2.5-point favorite over UL Lafayette. Any feelings here initially on this game?
Well, Appalachian State has been the big name out of that conference of seems like for eons or forever since we know the conference. They beat Michigan years ago at a big upset at the Big House, and surprised already that they've been eliminated. But there's been some tough competition in that conference already this season, and you had mentioned it earlier. But they do come up favored here. They come up favored against a team that people think are going to be in the finals of the conference.
Yeah.
So that makes me think that maybe they're going to rally the forces in Boone and put it together. Like I said, this is at the end of the week. We're here. It's only Tuesday, so there's a lot more information that we're looking to garner before we post a true definitive decision on the game.
Yeah, it's good. It promises to be a very good matchup. Appalachian State really tough at home. Again, we got another example. We've saw this time and time again, Chipper, of an unranked team like Appalachian State as a favorite against a ranked team. And, I get it that it's at home, but if you switch sites based on the calculations that the books use for the most part in giving the home team a 3-point advantage, Appalachian State would be just you're talking about, they'd be what, a 3.5-point underdog on the road?
Yeah.
So, again, it's pretty much an even game when it comes to power ratings. Anyway, let's move on to more college football, an early look. A game again in that conference, the Sun Belt Conference, Liberty. Number 25 in the country taking on number 14 Coastal Carolina. Game will be played at Coastal Carolina. Right now, Coastal Carolina is a 6.5-point favorite. This is a Liberty team, Chip, as we both now defeated Virginia Tech and probably should have beat North Carolina State if not for a blocked field goal on the last play of the game. Again, Coastal Carolina, 6.5-point favorite, as high as 7 in some places. Any thoughts?
My thoughts are it's a very strong number. Liberty's been great all season. They hurt us a couple of times, but they've been playing some great football. Now, I think we both had plenty of respect for this Coastal Carolina team from the onset of the season. I saw them early, and I said, this team can play football. And their quarterback, who was a transfer from who remembers where, is really a quality player playing out at school, which no one ever heard about. But when I saw this number, I thought this was going to be closer to a 3.5, maybe closer to the line between La Tech and Appalachian State. Why is this team such a prohibitive favorite? Open 7, I think it did. Or it's at 6 now, Ross? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's 6.5 and 7 now.
All right, there you go. That's a big number. And, Liberty beats Virginia Tech. They sat and gave NC State everything they could handle. And now they're getting almost a full touchdown. Either bookmakers have a lot of respect for Coastal Carolina, or they just think that Liberty has been doing it with mirrors. I'm shocked. I'm not shocked, but I'm surprised that this number is as large as it is, Ross.
Yeah, again, if the game was at Liberty, we'd be looking at pretty much a pick'em game. So again, who would have thought that anyone out there think, I should say, that Coastal Carolina would be number 14 and Liberty would be number 25 before the season began on December 1st. And if you thought that way, you know what? You're an absolute liar. So,
well, in the same vein, whoever would have imagined Penn State being 0-5? Things are happening this year that haven't happened in eons, and we have to adjust to it. And I think we've done a pretty good job so far, Ross. We've had games eliminated, and we're dealing with matchups that ordinarily we don't see, and we're trotting right along. So let's just get some more winners this weekend. There's some matchups that I think are there for us.
Yeah, it's not an attractive schedule by any stretch of the imagination, Chip. When I looked at it, from a viewership standpoint, we could always make it attractive by finding betting value, though.
Right.
A game in the SEC, Chip, number 6 Florida at Tennessee. Tennessee coming off a win, I believe, and Florida is laying 17 in the spot on the road. This is ordinarily a a really good matchup in the SEC, but not so much this year because of the disparity in records and talent. But it's been a rivalry over the years that Tennessee hasn't been fared very well. A lot of heartbreaking losses going back to the Tim Tebow days. Any thoughts on this game whatsoever, Chipper?
My thoughts when I first saw it, I thought the number was strong at 17, I believe it is, and they're playing at Tennessee. I believe Florida has just been a machine on offense. This Trask is really a bona fide NFL draft pick for the Gators. And the rival between these two, I don't think when Peyton Manning was at Tennessee, I don't think he ever beat Florida. And Tennessee always seems to struggle again when they're playing this team. And I think a lot more was expected out of the Volunteers this season. Early on, I think the odds maker was giving them a lot more respect than they are now.
They were a top 25 team before in the preseason poll, Chip.
All right, and now here they are, a 17-point dog at home.
Yep.
I'm wondering if they have the talent to pull it off, Ross. Do they have the effort that's there for them? Many thought that Florida would stub their toe last week on the road as that huge favorite, and they came and they just went out and won anyway. They won for fun. So, I'm a Gator fan at heart. I really am, going way back, and I don't think this. I think that if if Tennessee can come up with any kind of effort here, they should keep within the margin.
Yep. I think it'll be a lot closer than people think. I think 17 is a heavy number. And here's what I don't like about Florida is their defense. As opposed to recent years where their defense has been stout, this one has been anything but. And they're getting away with a lot because they can move the ball up and down the field, led by Kyle Trask, a potential Heisman Trophy winner, as Chip just alluded to. But whenever you are laying this big a number on the road and you're vulnerable defensively, I look to use the other side. Yeah. So I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do, but I certainly, if I was going to make a move on this game, I would lean toward the home underdog in a spot, Chipper.
Well, that's pretty much the way I feel and what I said about it too.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. West Virginia at Iowa State. Iowa State wins, and they're in the Big 12 championship game. Even if they lose, they're going to need some. I believe they're still in, but I'd have to look at that. In any event, West Virginia is a pretty good defensive team. It depends on if Iowa State comes to play. If they come to play, they're the better team in this matchup. West Virginia has been very good at home, but not so much on the road, Chip. Iowa State right now is 7, opened at 7, is stayed at 7. Any thoughts?
Well, like you said it, I'm always looking to back the Mountaineers when they're playing at home and always looking to fade them around the road. Iowa State, very fortunate to come away with a last-minute victory over Texas. They won it. They certainly did. They won by 4, or was it 3? I'm not quite sure, but they did beat Texas at Texas. And like you said, this game really has no value to them. Win or lose, they're going to be in the conference championship game. Is that correct?
I believe so, Chip, because they're at 7-1 in conference play. And even with a loss, they'd have 2 losses. And the only other teams that have a chance are Texas and Oklahoma. But they have beaten both of those, so they would win the tiebreaker there. So, I would say that they're in.
Yeah. I thought it was mentioned before that even last week's game didn't have that much significance for them. Maybe they get caught. They can get caught looking ahead very easily here. And West Virginia, like you said, at home has been so strong and so stout. They rely on their defense there, getting a touchdown. I could take the Mountaineers here as long as they're at home. But if they're at Iowa State, I'm in trouble with thinking about backing them.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the other part of the equation, this is one of those lines that every week we look and the line jumps out at us. Why is Iowa State only -7 at home against West Virginia? They're the number 12 team in the land. West Virginia has had their struggles on the road, like we just touched upon. The only thing I can make sense of is what you just said, Chipper. They have a spot already locked in the Big 12 championship game, and how much incentive are they going to have? Again, it is their final home game for the seniors. A little bit of motion there, but certainly a game I'm going to take interest in watching. Number 10, Indiana. Number 18, Wisconsin. We discussed this a little bit yesterday. Now we know that the starting quarterback for Indiana, Michael Penix, is out for the year with a blown out ACL.
Yeah.
And Wisconsin coming off their first loss of the season. They're at minus 14 right now. If Penix was available, you probably looking at Wisconsin being like anywhere from 7.5 to 10, maybe possibly, Chip. What's your thoughts?
The line is outrageous. I think that Indiana may be at their Waterloo right here with that number.
Yeah.
Without that quarterback, I think they're in serious trouble. Ross, I think I mentioned to you, I have a very astute handicapper from New York, who I was partners with years ago, calls me up and says, what the heck's going on with this game? Now, we have a lot of respect for Wisconsin. I think they're one of the top teams in the country. As a matter of fact, when we had Northwestern against them and Northwestern beat them 17-7, they actually outgained the Wildcats by like 125 yards, which equates to between 7 and 10 points. So they misplayed somewhere, and, you know, maybe they're going to come back really strong here. If they can shut down the Indiana offense, I think it's history here. The numbers just so outrageous, the way Indiana's been playing all year, the gallant effort they had against Ohio State, and then coming back the next week and winning big. This is huge number to be able to give the Hoosiers here. I can't take Indiana. I think the odds maker, I got to respect the odds maker's opinion on this one.
Yeah, I agree, Chipper. Texas A&M, number 5 in the country at Auburn. We discussed this briefly yesterday. Texas A&M is now opened at 4.5. They're up to 7, Chip. And again, I'm going to reiterate what I said yesterday. From my eye test that I've saw them a couple times this year, they are not the number 5 team in the country, in my opinion. But they are in need of style points, because if anybody fails in the top 4, they can move in there into the playoff spot. But if they don't start winning more impressively, somebody can catch them from behind if that's the case. So again, this would be an excellent opportunity going against a brand name like Auburn to run up a score and win decisively. But can they do that on the road? I know Auburn's coming off a terrible loss last week against Alabama, but facing Alabama and facing Texas A&M are two different animals. As a matter of fact, Texas A&M's only loss, they were blown out against Alabama. Your thoughts, Chip, or anything different than yesterday?
No, I'd like to reinforce what you said about this team being a hoax as the number 5 team in the nation, but they're up against another hoax and a quarterback, Bo Nix. So this Auburn team, which normally we would love in this situation, it's just they got annihilated by Alabama last week, but A&M got annihilated by Alabama at home. And, you know, I was on that side. I was on the wrong side. And, you know, I just don't think that the A&M team is one of those elite teams that we spoke about. And I think that I'm hoping that Auburn can garner it together here, because my instincts just tell me that that's supposed to be the side, and I would never take A&M here, and I'd rather be right than wrong. So I think I would be supporting the Tigers.
There's a brilliant calculation. I could always depend on you for bringing valuable insight that I didn't know prior to the show.
I'm the king of useless information.
Anyway, all right, let's take a look at another game in college football, a more competitive matchup. We're looking at Houston traveling to SMU. SMU coming off an upset loss by 14 to East Carolina last week. This line opened as a pick'em, but Houston is now a 2-point road favorite against a SMU team that has spent most of the year in the top 25 up until recent weeks. And, look, a lot of injuries at wide receiver, and this is still an SMU team, all offense and no defense, Chip, in my opinion.
Both these teams are sort of enigmas for the whole season. I mean, it's been hard to get a grip or a handle on either of them, to tell the truth. I mean, Houston comes out and they go down 24-0 in their season opener and come back and crush, and then they fall flat, and SMU has had upset wins and upset losses. I think this is a really tough one to call right here. Lawson, when we look at a game, and we usually have an instinct. I don't know about you. When you see a number on it, it registers positive or negative or what's going on. And with this one, it was just like flat. I looked at it, and I just had nothing. Nothing was coming back to me off this game.
In other words, you looked at that game, you looked at the line, and you said, let me move on to what else I see.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so I get it because this is a real tough call, and you don't know what SMU team is going to show up. Houston's been competitive for most of the year. Again, it's a
I was so
pretty even matchup, and I think it's an honest line.
Yeah, and I was so ticked off last week because I was skeptical of the SMU line against East Carolina and never really thought about getting serious with the Pirates, and they just went out and just crushed them.
Yeah,
And you know, I was surprised. Well, I was surprised at the way they won, but when I saw what the number was on that game, it sort of, I was taken back a little bit and thinking, gee, SMU's a lot better than East Carolina, and
yeah.
yet the line was close to pick 'em. I'm pretty sure it was in around there.
Yeah,
And
in East Carolina put up 52 points in that game.
2 points.
Yeah, yeah. Alabama at LSU, a Saturday night in Baton Rouge, 8 p.m. Eastern time. I know that that's lost a lot of its stigma because of the season that LSU is going through this year. Last week, they were shut out at College Station against the Aggies until 38 seconds to go in the game. Brad Johnson, remember him, the quarterback that led Tampa Bay to a Super Bowl over the then Oakland Raiders
Sure.
back in the early 2000s. Well, his son was the one who led him on that scoring drive. He's a lefty. Brad Johnson was a righty. In any event, Chipper, I hate using or looking at these lines when they get way up there like
Yeah.
this one is. I did do that last week with Alabama against Auburn and cashed in. So did you.
Yes.
But again, this opened at 27.5. It's up to as high as 29.5. Does LSU have a chance of staying inside this number? And because Alabama's playing really good right now.
Yeah. But you're right, absolutely right. And I think maybe they do. Maybe just because of they're all 19 and 20-year-old kids, and a lot of these kids are going to come out. This has got to be the Super Bowl for LSU. No, I mean, whatever they have, they're going to pull everything out here. They are at home. They're certainly trying not to get humiliated. And can this juggernaut of offense, led by Matt Jones, this Crimson Tide, can this Alabama team just keep steamrolling everybody? Are they going to have any kind of game where they're going to play closer to the number at least? Or, who's competitive in the SEC? They
Yeah.
say the Texas A&M is number 5, and Alabama blew them out. So I haven't seen Alabama really go up against a really tough test. And maybe they'll sleepwalk through this. After winning with them last week, I don't want to lay it. I really don't. I never really felt comfortable. Not that you can feel comfortable, Ross, when you're laying 24 points, but it was just the way the game was going, and even Auburn scoring late at the end bothered me. But that Bo Nix, he's just really tough to stop.
You're a funny guy. Hey, the only thing I could say is maybe Alabama will have a little bit of a letdown coming off the Iron Bowl against Auburn, that big rivalry game. Ordinarily, that wouldn't be the case because they're facing the defending national champions, but we know this LSU team is a shell of itself of where they were a season ago. So we'll keep an eye on that. You could either look like a genius or an absolute dummy by taking LSU. You never know. But there's better games on the board. Chipper, anything going in college basketball tonight that you have for sale?
There might be, but not for me. I usually like to for it to settle in for 2 weeks, or to get a feel for what's going on. I stepped out yesterday and made a big blunder, so I'll just wait. The football's been going so strong. I'm of the attitude I only need one winner a day. I just need a play. Just give me that one big winner, and I'll be happy. And college basketball has always been really good to us, Ross. And I just like to see what's happening, which teams are meshing and which are still struggling early in the season.
Yeah, I had a 5-star pick today on USC plus 3.5 against BYU, and USC won 79-53. That
There
makes
you
me
go.
6-2 in college basketball to start the season. Also, keep an eye on my college basketball 10-star top plays. I had one this afternoon, Chip, but the game got canceled because of COVID.
Right.
But anyway, college basketball 10-star top plays. 39-23 with my last 62, dating back to last season, and that includes 8-0 with my last 8, and 3-0 this season with my college basketball 10-star top plays. So you can get my college basketball picks. I have one up for sale right now, a 5-star golden total at rbwins.com. Chipper site, chipwins.com, red hot, Chip Chirimbes.
Yep.
8-1 over the weekend with his NFL and college football picks. Won again last night with Philadelphia. On fire, Chip. Anything you want to add to what's going to be up at chipwins.com that the customers may want to purchase?
Well, I try not to get too far ahead of myself, Ross. I just try to take it a piece and a day at a time and try to put out the best product I can. So, when we have a full schedule and full slate, you'll get anywhere from 1 to 3 games, most likely the 3. Otherwise, you're just going to get my top A play, a Megabucks winner each and every day.
And you do pretty well with that A play. You have for a very long time. That's chipwins.com. And Chip, if somebody wants to reach you because they want you to tailor a package for them specifically that you don't offer for sale, what's your phone number they could reach you at?
All right, I'll give you the number, but if you remember to go to the site, chipwins.com, the number's plastered all over, but you can reach me personally and we can tailor any kind of package you like. If you're not interested in the NFL or NBA or NCAA, we can style it for you. 702-931-CHIP. That's 702-931-2447. Ross, thank you.
All right, we'll be back on Thursday with our late week college football edition. Until then, I'm Ross Benjamin, and for Chip Chirimbes, we like to wish each and every one of you all the best of luck and God bless.